Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host, and I am fired up to be here with you guys. Man, so much has happened in the last couple of weeks. I've had a really difficult time deciding what I wanted to record, what topic I wanted to do first. And the one that I decided to really hone in on is getting out of yourself, getting out of the way, being there for other people and just deciding to go for it. Let's get into this. So I have mentioned in other episodes about going to a gala, however you say it, Eastern, Western, whatever. I've been corrected on many ways in that fashion. But I went to the Ronald McDonald House Gala. Now, this gala is one of the largest of the state, and it acquires 30% of their total annual budget. That night, there was 1,000 participants, 101 tables. They ended up raising $1.4 million at the auction that night, on top of the amount for the tables. And how cool that was and how amazing of an experience it is to get out of yourself, especially when it's a higher dollar amount than you usually do. What I want to really hone in on is your purpose, your intention, and your impact. So often I find that we make great strides when we're going for some goal. We're trying to hit this end goal. We finally hit it. It's usually monetary in nature more often than not. And I find when I hit those goals, it's awesome, but it's not as cool as I thought it would be. Almost rarely do I hit these monetary goals or business goals, and I sit back and I'm just flabbergasted by what it turned out to be. My mind usually makes it out to be something of greater significance in my life. But for me, I typically sit back and say, that's awesome. What's the next goal? Where are we going next? What are we doing next? It is quite different when you're doing something to get outside of yourself. It is quite different when you are helping others. So when you hit these goals and you help others with that goal, it creates a much larger wave. It feels different. It lands different, if you know what I mean. So this gala, we went to this gala. We ended up winning. I'm not sure what my wife auctioned on. It was outside toys. It was like a summer, spring toy collage, giant package of toys for outside. And my sons loved it. My sons are 4 and 2, and they thought it was awesome. The street chalk and the foot rockets, like the little air pads with rockets you shoot in the air. We all did when we were kids. Little, what are they called? Like the skip bops, I guess. The things you put on your foot. I could never get my foot in these days. Way too big of feet. And you skip and jump around. My sons think they're awesome. The coolest part of the entire night for me was actually one of our guests. We had a guest at our table that this was that person's first experience at something like this. This was not our first experience. It was actually our second experience. But it was this person's first experience. And giving that person an opportunity to experience something they otherwise would not have been able to do at this point in time. Watching them interact, watching them blossom, watching them grow over the course of several hours through the night was really cool to witness. And to help push this person in uncomfortable, unfamiliar situations and watch them expand and blossom and grow was such a resourceful feeling for me. Seeing all the money raised, seeing all the different things and all the tuxedos and gowns and dresses and suits and all the stuff. It was very glitzy, very glamoury. But the coolest thing of all was watching this individual start to see what is possible, to start witness or begin to witness there's a whole different level that they had not yet seen. Fast forward, last night, we had the opportunity to be a part of a cookie brigade. What that means is a local to Utah cookie company known as Crumble Cookie donated 400 boxes of cookies to the Utah foster kids. So all the different regions in Utah, people went out and delivered them. I was part of the car community. I love cars. I am deeply enthralled with cars. I know many, many, many people in the car community. There was 50 cars that showed up. I was holding down the trucks. I was the only truck there. Everybody else, one G-Wagon, and everybody else was supercars. We went out and delivered cookies to these families. I had one other friend come that I invited, and that was his first experience of ever doing something of this nature. I said, hey, you've got a really fun, exotic car. You should use it for some philanthropic purposes. Get out of yourself and go do something with your car, not just drive it for fun or go to car meets, but go serve some people with it. So we did that. We delivered cookies to these kids and the families that support these kids. Let me tell you what, it was so cool. One of the houses we went to, they knew we were coming. The kids were lined up in the house. They had a 7-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and probably 6-month-old. 2 of the kids were adopted. 1 kid was fostered. They're all 3 siblings. And this family was so special. The people that bring in children and foster them and take care of them and then ultimately adopt them like this family is doing and has done is remarkable. And I saw photos of different kids that got inside the supercars, and the beaming smile on their face is indescribable. The amount of joy that a cookie brought to somebody, the amount of joy, the amount of seeing a car they probably would never see again in their lifetime is undescribable. You see, what is the point of attaining all this wealth, all of this material aspect, if you don't serve people with it? If you just keep it for yourself, keep it to look at, what good is it? Why? I want to tell you a little bit about a vision I had once. I'm not super into Lamborghinis personally. I'm more of a Ferrari guy. I'm really more of a McLaren guy. But, I've never been huge into most Lamborghinis. The newer ones are pretty rad. But I had an image one time come to mind of having a car that was wrapped in PPF to protect the paint as much as possible, and then taking it to primary children's or taking it to schools, taking it to where kids are, and let them touch it, let them feel it, let them love on it, and help them understand this is real. You can attain this too. I'm no different than you. I saw this firsthand. This was probably 2 years ago, maybe a little over 2 years ago. I went to an impromptu car meetup, a drive-by for a boy that was passing away. He was in his final days of life, and he loved cars. And so we threw a drive-by past his house, and he sat in a lawn chair in the front lawn. That was a very tear-jerking experience. There was 200 cars, most of which were exotics and supercars, some hypercars, that drove past this little boy's house. He was 12 years old, and revved for him and honked for him and just celebrated with the last kickoff for this gentle soul. And then everybody left, and I was talking with the family, and one person pulled up. He's a fairly well-known influencer, fairly famous in the car community around the world, and he pulled up in a Bugatti Veyron. That is a fairly rare car. Most people will never see that car or a model like that in their lifetime. And he pulled up, and I watched him invite this boy to sit inside, to turn it on, to rev it. And he invited all the kids to sit inside the car. And I remember a very specific instance of this girl. She was probably 13 or 14 and was standing several feet from the car to take a photo in front of it. Her parents kept saying, that's a $2 million car. Don't get too close to it because I don't want you to hurt it. And this individual, the owner of the car, walked up to her and said, I want you to sit on the hood. And she said, well, what do you mean? He said, I want you to literally lay on the hood and pose on the car. She was trying to take a fun photo and pose in front of this car. He said, I want you to pose on the car. And he invited her, and she got on the hood of the car, and they took photos, and she beamed with joy. She was so excited, and the parents were dumbfounded. They couldn't understand. I will tell you what, those are core memories for the kids that still have lived through. Now, the boy that we drove past, he did end up passing away. But his siblings, I promise you, they will never, ever forget that experience. I promise you, I will never, ever forget that experience. It was something of so much resource and love and kindness and happiness. Utilizing something like a $2 million Bugatti Veyron and bringing it to somebody's house and just letting them love on it. That's where I got the image of getting a Lamborghini. And the reason why Lamborghini, because every time I've ever seen a kid see an exotic car, they always ask, oh, is that a Lamborghini? Is that a Lambo? It doesn't matter what car you're driving. You could be driving a Zenvo. You could be driving an Apollo. It doesn't matter what you're driving. If it's not a Lamborghini, there's a little bit of a, oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool too. They're a little bit of a letdown because the brand name Lamborghini. That's why I want to get a Lamborghini and take it for the kids to love on, to help them recognize this is real. I am physically touching it. I don't have to take great caution around it. It is a thing for use. It is a tool to do something, right? Most vehicles are a tool to get you from point A to point B, and that's kind of it. When you get to a certain level of car, that impact and intention evolves. It is not necessarily an A to B car. When you start getting into the Bugattis and the Paganis and those cars, the hypercars, they are not an A to B car. They are an A to A car. It is to go out and come back and experience something different. It's a feeling. It's not just a drive. It's not just going somewhere. It is experiencing something you would otherwise not experience. So to loop this whole thing around, get out of yourself. Have a larger purpose, a larger reason outside of you. Serve others. Utilize your success for impact. Utilize your net worth for growth of others. Utilize your capacity to impact somebody and consequently have a butterfly effect and impact thousands, tens of thousands, millions if you impact the right person. I know beyond the shadow of doubt that is why you have the resources you have and the resources you will attain. That is the reason. Yes, it is for you to grow. Yes, it is for you to experience very cool things. But ultimately, it's to impact others. It's to love others. Money is pointless unless it is utilized. And its utilization is the serving of others. That is what I have for you guys today. That's what I wanted to share on this topic of get out of yourself. Serve others. Be of influence and impact. And you will see your life soar to new heights. You will learn the more money you give, the more you get in return. So you can give more money. This is an evolving circular flow, if you will. So have this conversation with your friends and your family. Keep the conversation going. Talk to me, message me, leave me a review. Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, whatever it may be. I'm not even sure if Google's still around. I think May is the last month that they're going around. So by the time of this recording, Google Podcasts may not be a thing. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Oh yeah, you can find me, Mr. Brad Draper, on all social media platforms. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.